I'm about to save a life and I need you to listen. Now that I've got your attention, if you are pregnant or you just recently gave birth, and when I say recently gave birth, I mean if you gave birth within the last 12 weeks, this video is for you. My name is Abby. I'm a mom of 5, but that's really not important. What is important though is that 3 of my children I had within the last 2.5 years. So back to back to back. After the birth of my not most recent baby, but the one before that, I ended up back in the hospital at 12 days postpartum, suffering from postpartum eclampsia and a cardiomyopathy. The crazy thing is, though, is that nobody had ever spoken to me about the potential of those things ever happening. I literally never knew that you could have postpartum complications that were not related to just like your bleeding. And at the time, that was my 4th baby. So if I didn't know, it's possible that you guys might not know either. Went back to the hospital at 12 days postpartum. I ended up being admitted on a magnesium drip, and I was there for a little bit over a week, maybe a week and a half or so. I ended up getting over 40 pounds of fluid removed that my body was just not able to pump out on its own, and help and assistance with trying to manage my blood pressure. Now, it's important to note that prior to this incident, I had never, ever had a history of high blood pressure, never even a high reading. My blood pressures were perfect, like just throughout my life. Throughout all 4 of those pregnancies, blood pressure was perfect. So this was my first time ever experiencing something like this. Obviously, as a Black woman, our maternal death rate is much higher. We don't really know why. I have my suspicions, but they really can't figure out why. But we just have a higher mortality rate when it comes to delivering babies anyway. The symptom, though, that led me to go back to the hospital wasn't something super exaggerated, and it wasn't even something that I noticed myself. I'm a fast talker anyway, and I usually don't breathe while I'm talking. I don't breathe out of my nose or anything. I will talk and talk and talk and talk, and then I will take a breath. So I'm obviously on the internet, I'm making videos. People are like, oh, you breathe and you sound funny. People say that to me all the time though. So that was not what sent me back to the hospital. What sent me back to the hospital was my baby daddy actually recorded me a video of what I sounded like while I was laying down and trying to sleep. It literally sounded like I was drowning. And I was like, is that me? And he was like, yeah, that's you. And then on the day that I went back to the hospital, I got a slight little headache. I never usually get headaches, but I thought anything that I was feeling was just related to the fact that I had these babies back to back, and everyone was like, your postpartum recovery is just going to be that much more difficult. So I didn't want to be like a baby back bitch and be like, oh my God, I'm feeling weird. There was like, well, you shouldn't have babies back to back. So I was like, let me just shut my mouth. I'm so glad that I went in that day because I literally lost my vision when I was sitting in the emergency room. The thing that saved my life though was that I still had on my hospital bands from giving birth. I was 12 days postpartum, and it was like really irritating everybody on the internet that I hadn't taken them off yet. And my personality, I was like, I'm just going to keep them on longer. And I'm so glad that I did, because had I not done that, they would not have known that I was literally just there 12 days prior, given birth, and got me back there and pumped me, and got me full of medicine and did all the stuff that they needed to do to literally save my life. This time though, our hospital, same hospital, now gives out these bracelets that say I gave birth. So I don't have to wear my hospital bracelet for 6 to 12 weeks, but just this lets our hospital know, or any medical professional know, like, hey, this person just gave birth. They need like immediate attention and help. My hospital gives you this red envelope, and inside the red envelope is the band. So after I went to the hospital, and I got this one after my 5th baby. After my 4th baby, the time I got admitted back to the hospital, they were like, oh, didn't you have the red envelope with the thing? I'm like, there was a red envelope, but nobody told me what it was for. Nobody went over anything with me. Nobody said anything. The number one thing that I can tell you to do is, as you're building your baby registry, or as you're making sure you have your favorite diapers for you, postpartum, and sprays and icicle pads and all of that stuff, make sure you have an at-home blood pressure monitor. Even though your doctor is taking your blood pressure when you go in for your monthly visits, every 2 weeks, every week visit, you need to make sure that you are taking your blood pressure on your own so that you know what your normal baseline is at home. That's the number one thing that I recommend. Get the app that syncs it to your phone so that you can know what your blood pressure is. But also, if you feel like something is not right, I need you to speak up and say something like your life depends on it, because it literally does. Literally, they will not know unless you say something. So you have to speak up. When I think back on it now, some of the signs that I wish I would have known about, but that I missed: chest pain. Okay. So the type of pain that I'm talking about, it's going to be a little bit confusing because if your milk is coming in, you might think that it's that, but this is the type of pain where it is in the center of your chest. Okay. And when you lay down, it feels worse. So one of the things that I missed then was that I was not laying down. When I was in the bed or I was like taking care of the baby, I wanted to be fully sitting up because it felt better. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't laying down because it actually hurt. It just wasn't something that I was paying attention to. I thought, okay, I'm feeling this feeling because I'm sitting up and I'm feeding the baby bottles, but it's like a tightness in the chest. I would feel it right in the center of my chest. It literally felt like someone was standing on me, but I also felt it around my back. It felt like someone was squeezing me. But it was something that I wasn't really paying attention to because I was like thinking in my head, I got the epidural, like I've been sitting in bed feeding or taking care of the baby, like that's why my back hurts. But it wasn't dawning on me like, you haven't laid down. And the reason you haven't laid down is because it hurts. Headaches for me are super, super rare. So if I ever get them now, I'm obviously like super vigilant, almost to the point where I can feel like I might go like over the top, but I'm like determined I will not die from having this baby. I do want to say that before I had my 5th baby, after I had the incident with my 4th baby, my blood pressure had returned to completely normal. I was off of all medications, and it was with the support of my medical team, our doctors, cardiologist, primary care, and all of that I would be able to carry another baby healthy to term. And there was a chance I could have an issue again, and there was a chance that I couldn't. We wouldn't know. But obviously the fact that I had it with my 4th with no prior history, just because you have it once doesn't mean that you'll have it again. Just because you've never had it doesn't mean you'll never have it. But this time around, I was able to be super vigilant. I have a really good friend that I've literally known since I was a baby, who literally just graduated and is like a real life doctor now. She has so much history working in like cardiology. So she was able to be there with me when I had the complications after the birth of my 4th. She literally went with me to doctor's appointments, to cardiology, was there with me when I was in the hospital. So she was able this time to tell me like, these are the things that you need to ask for. These are the things that I want you to request. So literally before getting out of the hospital, making sure that I had an EKG, a CAT scan, an x-ray, some Lasix to help me be able to get rid of some of the fluid that I had and was retaining after having my epidural. So those types of things, just like being vigilant and being able to say, this is what I want done. And if a professional is refusing, ask them to document it in your notes. Because if I die, it's on you, bitch. Because I told you I needed this. I told you something didn't feel right. But you got to let them know. Don't ever think that something that you're experiencing is too small or not as bad or whatever, because this type of thing is literally like the silent killer. They gave us this little pamphlet, and most of it talks about the stuff like about bleeding, but it talks about POST, POST, post both birth warning signs. Post-birth warning signs. P stands for pain in the chest. O stands for obstructed breathing or shortness of breath. S stands for seizures, and T, thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else. And they're not just talking about your baby daddy's pissing you off because he's playing his music really loud and you didn't get any sleep last night. Or they're not talking about your toddler eats one of your nothing bundt cakes. And when he saw you coming, he threw the last one on the floor so he didn't get caught. That's not what they're talking about. But just if you feel like something is not right, this doesn't even mention headaches, but if you feel like something is not right, please speak up and say it. Like, don't waste any time. Speak up and say it.